Okay, thanks, Marty. I'm Patrick Crisfulla. I work in a product development group at Elsevier, focused on journals, both journal websites and journal apps. So we have quite a lot of journal websites, one for each of our major publications that has a personal subscriber base or a large base of society members. Examples include the Mayo Clinic Proceedings.org, gastrojournal.org for the members of the American Gastroenterological Association, the Lancet.com, fertility and sterility, etc. And at the same time, Elsevier has Science Tract, which is a collection of 2,000 journals and 2,000 books. And so I have data from these various different websites in terms of mobile usage that I'd like to share. And also, Elsevier's produced over 100 native store apps, as you would call them. For example, the Jack iPad app or the Lancet iPad app for an individual journal app branded to the journal and for the personal subscribers or the society members of that one journal. At the same time, we've launched apps such as the Science Direct app, which is for anyone who has institutional access to journals which are hosted on Science Direct. So I have some data from these native apps as well to share, and just talk about that. So and this is this is just. So we have native app data and mobile web browsing data to contrast. So what I thought I would do was to present the native app usage of Science Direct as compared to, contrasted against these journal branded native apps for single journals. And we have about 30 of them. We have data from about 30 of those to contrast here. So at the same time, we also have data about mobile usage as a percentage of total usage, total digital usage, excluding print, of course. And I'd like to share some information about content consumption by device type. So, how much are people reading on iPhone versus iPad versus desktop? And we also found some interesting points in our data about clinician sites versus scientific researcher sites. There are really two different communities reading some of these medical journals in a different way. One, doing research and looking at research in order to do their research, versus the clinicians who are browse reading, a particular journal, which is helping them keep up to date with their their particular field. So the first thing I would show here is the green line is the app called the Science Direct iPad app. I don't know if this is working. And the orange line is a collection of apps, 30 apps, which are branded to the journal and which serve mostly clinicians, physicians and nurses. So what we find here is if you contrast the usage, the unique users on a given month, we find that we have twice as many unique users on these 30 apps versus the Science Tract app. So it's kind of a strange thing to compare one app versus 30, but the point here is that this one app, Science Tract, is intended to serve up to 2,000 journals and potentially 30 million people around the world who have access to Science Direct, whether it's a country, an academic institution. We found that was interesting, that just 30 journals, if constructed in a journal-branded app and focused on the personal subscribers, would generate more usage than the overall massive Science Direct universe there. The second thing, now on this slide, I've switched it to user sessions as opposed to unique users. And so what you see here is even more stark in terms of telling the story. These apps built for personal subscribers who browse read the journal on every week. If it's a weekly, every week. If it's a monthly, each week, each month the issue comes out. It's showing 5 times more user sessions when built around the individual journal brand and focused on the personal subscribers. So I thought that was interesting.
Could I just ask a clarification question?
Please.
You probably showed this in an earlier slide. Are these all iPad apps or are they phone and iPad apps?
So primarily the vast majority of this is iPad usage, although for example the Science Direct app is also, it is an iPhone app. I'm going to show you a little bit later some of the usage variances between the two. Yeah. Okay, so on this slide, on the top half of the slide, what I'm doing is showing the mobile usage for these individual journal-branded solutions for personal subscribers and society members, as contrasted on the right-hand side against the digital usage of the Science Direct plus the Science Direct native app. So comparing the left against the right, on the top half, what you see is these apps that are designed for personal subscribers are contributing 18% mobile usage as a percentage of all digital usage. Now that's including the main website, plus people visiting the main website from mobile browser. That 11 where it says mobile 11%, that should say mobile web. And the apps is about 7%. So whereas on the research platform, there's so much more usage that's happening on the desktop versus only 3%. So it's 5 times more prevalent that somebody's engaging with a personal subscription or a society subscription than they are in the research community. Now looking at the bottom half of the slide, we're basically, it's the same left-right comparison, and what you can see is the slice of the pie that's green shows the contribution of the native app to the total mobile usage. So again, the apps for the personal subscribers and society members are contributing 38% of the total mobile, whereas on the right-hand side, the Science Direct app, equipping those researchers is contributing only 9%. So substantially less contribution of total mobile usage as well. So so now let's talk about content usage. So on this slide, what we have is the content pages consumed per average visit, and then organized by device type. So what we expected to see here was that the iPad users would engage with more content than the iPhone. So that was pretty obvious, right? 31, and so what we see is 31%, the top span, if you compare iPhone versus the iPad, more usage on the iPad. But what we thought was more interesting in the data that we didn't expect was that iPad users are actually engaging with content 19% more than even desktop. So we kind of assumed that the iPad would slot in here just slightly below desktop, but interesting. Now, so this is the Lancet.com, which is a site designed primarily for personal subscribers to that journal. And so, maybe what this shows is that if you, with an iPad, you can lean back and enjoy your personal subscription and flip through more content than you would if you had to sit, leaning forward at a desktop. So that was, we thought that was interesting. Moving on here, I wanted to share some usage by device, complementing what was said by both speakers, Bill and Marty. On Science Direct, when you look at, people are coming from mobile web browsers from lots of different device types. What's the contribution of iOS versus Android? What we're seeing is that iOS, which is iPhone plus iPad, massively dominates this Science Direct mobile browser access sessions. And US versus Europe are roughly equivalent in terms of their usage of the Science Direct main website from an iPad app. But what's actually standout in terms of a discrepancy here in the data of US versus Europe is that we're seeing that the Europe researchers on Science Direct are half as likely to visit that website from their iPhone as the ones in America. So not really sure what maybe it's a market penetration thing or something like that. So, and this is usage from the last month, May 2003, that we had full data on. So I'm going to switch on this slide from Science Direct mobile usage to the journal-branded websites such as the Lancet or fertilityandsterility.com, switching back to that audience. And so what we see here is that the mobile browser visits to the journal-branded websites are also dominated by iOS, but Android is more significant. Android is closing faster. These sites are designed for clinicians, and so we see, at least some of them are starting to purchase and deploy and use their Android devices. What's also notable on this chart is that the U.S. iPhone visits are more than twice as high as the European, the big 5 countries in Europe or Japan. So overall, contrasting this previous page showing the ScienceDirect.com mobile web browsers versus the journal-branded sites, we see that personal subscribing clinicians, who are the core audiences of these sites, are more than 50 to 100% more likely to attempt to access via phone versus the researchers. So anyway, in terms of conclusions, what's pretty obvious to us in product development is that there's certainly more we can do to improve the situation in terms of getting the researchers over the access challenges. It was easy on the web, IP access, and what we can do. There's probably a lot more that we can do in terms of making those end users understand their entitlements and claim those entitlements quickly. And also, site design probably plays a significant role in these usage figures in terms of which of these platforms was adapted for mobile presentation the best or the fastest. So the second major conclusion, I think, that's pretty obvious in the data is that the native apps that are designed as a companion to a personal subscription, that's working well. It's a decent amount of the total usage. And that's happening because there's a strong relationship of the individual physician to this particular app brand. I am a cardiologist. The Jack app means something to me, and so I open it up and I browse read each week or month repeatedly, which is what's driving the total usage numbers up. And where we have native apps as a companion to institutional research access platforms, we see more significant challenges. Do these native apps match the desktop the workflow of the researcher? So if I'm trying to complete a research project, I may need to go to PubMed or Google Scholar and search and complete my research project, ending up on 12 different publishers' websites to get different articles. I'm certainly not necessarily going to download 12 native apps in order to complete one research project, right? So, it's from the publisher perspective, it's hard to meet their complete workflow need there. And then there's certainly more we can do in terms of authentication challenges to overcome. So conclusions are, if you're serving a lot of personal subscribers, consider offering both a well-formatted mobile website and native app. If you're serving a very broad community of researchers and people are involved in research projects using as the primary use case for your product, then you may want to place most of your effort into mobile formatting your main website in the browser.